Hey, I'm back. On this channel, I usually make short video essays about individual games from the past, but for this one, I thought I'd talk about a series that I love, and that series is obviously Ace Attorney. Objection! For those who don't know or need a reminder, Ace Attorney is a series of visual novels set in and in orbit of the courtroom. You usually play the role of a defense attorney who is tasked with searching crime scenes for evidence, interviewing witnesses for information, and most importantly, proving your client's innocence. The gameplay is divided into two halves. There's the investigation phase and the courtroom phase. But I'll be honest with you, about 90% of the game is dialogue. This isn't a bad thing, at least not in the case, I didn't mean to do that, of Ace Attorney. In other games, dialogue, even good dialogue, can sometimes feel draining to experience, like it's the thing you're forced to endure before the actual game begins. So how does Ace Attorney pull off gamifying its narrative? I don't know if there's a singular answer or an objective truth, but I think by looking at other examples of narrative design, alongside Ace Attorney's unique structure, we can maybe find something resembling an answer. Let's give it a shot. I think the most common structure of storytelling we see in games is a linear scripted story that we experience the bulk of through cutscenes. There will be gameplay of some kind, then a cutscene, and then more gameplay. This give-and-take structure is completely functional, and despite its familiar elements, it can still be very effective at telling a story, especially if the cutscenes aren't doing all the work. Atmosphere can tell a story, the mechanics can tell a story, and cutscenes themselves, when used sparingly, can still surprise us. They can also do a lot to establish the tone and mood of a game, so there's nothing wrong with this approach. I just think it's a little vanilla.
Bullshit.
Another popular approach at storytelling in games is the RPG method, commonly referred to as branching narrative design. Rather than playing a linear, scripted story, the player embodies a character and makes choices that influence how the plot progresses. This is probably my favorite approach at narrative design.
Oh, don't stare.
I'm a huge RPG fan, and I love any game that lets me write my own character. It's not realistic or even desired to have every game operate this way, but there's nothing quite as thrilling as making a dialogue choice that is objectively the wrong thing to say, but it's what you imagine is right for your character. That's role-playing, baby. While many RPGs keep their story engaging via dialogue choices and such, I'm impressed at how Ace Attorney doesn't treat plot as a separate element, or something that needs too many gameplay additions. The courtroom phase of Ace Attorney has more of a concrete sense of gameplay with its possibility of a game over and light puzzle elements, but every part of an Ace Attorney game takes place in the same flow of reality as the ever-present dialogue. So the story is never a separate component of the overall experience. I've played a lot of visual novels that are very compelling narrative experiences, but also have some type of second game within them that can feel a little tacked on. Sometimes this hybrid design can help change up the pace, but often, at least to me, these additions can feel like they're not coming from the same place of confidence as the rest of the game. 13 Sentinels is a good example of this sort of segmented approach. While I personally didn't mind the mech battles, I think most would agree that the best part of the game is experiencing the wild sci-fi story and slowly making your own realizations as the player. Ironically, these moments of forced gameplay can sometimes bristle in the same way cutscenes do in other games. In the context of a visual novel, mini-games or brief bursts of otherwise unrelated gameplay become the segment of the game where it feels like we're no longer playing. So maybe our sense of playing a game is actually just accepting the mission that individual game has in mind, rather than something overtly gamey like platforming or action. While it's definitely harder to pull off, I think Ace Attorney proves the power of a light touch when it comes to the mechanics and plot ratio. Kinetic novels, visual novels that aren't choice-driven, that are essentially set, linear stories, are a thriving genre for a reason. With enough dedication to character, music, and UI, sometimes just being the one to drive the dialogue forward is enough of a sense of interaction that the game will still feel like something worth playing rather than simply watching. And I think most Ace Attorney fans would agree that these games should be played and not just watched on YouTube, although, thank you for being here. I think we all enjoy the eureka moments of searching through our evidence to turn the tide in court, or the slow boil of finding clues in the investigations. But even when we are simply just reading, there is rarely a moment where it feels like we're not playing. And while video games themselves ironically don't need stories in order to exist, I think the unique structure of games allows for a lot of strong storytelling potential, specifically when it comes to the audience feeling involved and feeling connected. Ask any Ace Attorney fan why they love this series, and I bet anything their answer will be the characters. That's certainly my answer. I love all of the characters in this series as if they're friends of mine, and maybe that sounds odd, but I guarantee once you've played one of these games, you'll understand. And I genuinely wonder if I would have this sense of attachment to these characters if this wasn't a journey I felt I had shared with them in some way. In terms of the writing itself, Ace Attorney effortlessly combines extremely goofy comedy with drama, tragedy, and a general sense of warmness and love. It should feel all over the place, but it all works. The characters are always endearing, whether they're doing bits or being vulnerable. Even the extremely bizarre witnesses eventually feel like real people, for better and for worse. I could go on, but let's get back to our initial question. How exactly does Ace Attorney gamify its narrative? Well, as established earlier, I think having the possibility of a game over in the courtroom and tasking the player with making their own deductions certainly keeps the player's involvement relevant and required. But the bigger lesson for me here is that a game can still feel fun to play even if there isn't a traditional game happening. We don't necessarily need to treat plot and action as separate things if the plot is the action. In every moment of dialogue, Ace Attorney pleasantly bombards us with great music, funny sound effects, and just the simple thrill of spending time with this ensemble of weirdos that we love. How could all of that be anything but fun? Hello, thank you so much for watching this. I really hope you enjoyed it. I had so much fun making it. I really missed editing. I really missed making videos for this channel. It's so good to be back. I would love to be more active here. I think it's still unrealistic for me to commit to monthly videos, given my other projects right now, but you can expect me to be more active than I have been. How about that? That's the only thing I can really commit to promising. Somewhere between every other month and every few months. In terms of what's next game-wise, I would love to do Chrono Cross still, despite all evidence. I would love to do another Ace Attorney video about one of the games specifically. Probably Chronicles, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, my favorite one. But in the spirit of Ace Attorney, I'll leave all of that a mystery as well. And on that note, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.